Yeah.
We've got Bob Cavnar on the phone right now, an oil and gas expert. Bob, thank you for joining us. Can you hear me?
Yeah, good to be with you. Thanks.
Let's jump right in here. Give us a sense, the network of pipelines. What are we looking at here? I mean, how intricate are these networks, these system of pipelines across our area?
In this part of the world, there are pipelines everywhere, and you can see by the video that you're showing. I've got it up on my screen here. I'm not really ignoring you. I'm looking at my other screen. This is a big right away. You can see a power line there. Typically, what happens, and especially in highly populated areas, they'll combine right of way. So they'll have a pipeline, they'll have product lines, they'll have power lines, all in this same particular area. Number of utilities on it, including power and pipelines. The way the fire looks with the smoke, it looks like a product or a crude line, not natural gas. Natural gas doesn't tend to burn that dirty. So with the black smoke, I assume this is a product line. This is a pretty serious fire, obviously, and they should be able to shut the pipeline off. I'm not sure why it's been going this long unless they're having a hard time getting to terminal valves. Each pipeline system has valves where you can close in case there is a leak. So it must be either a long distance from where the valve is, where this fire is, or they haven't been able to identify which line it is yet.
Bob, for those just tuning in right now, as we continue to watch this pipeline fire in La Porte, they're near Spencer Highway in Somerton. How concerned should residents in that area be? I know we're awaiting more direction from local authorities, but what is the concern level here by your estimation?
Well, there's good and bad about being on fire. The good thing about being a fire is you don't have any liquid product contaminating the ground around, but it does burn super hot, and so there's a lot of danger within hundreds of yards of this fire. You can see how the yards and houses around this area are starting to smoke from the heat. These fires are very intense. And so they actually pose a serious danger for quite a radius around this fire. So they need to clear the area.
In terms of the response that we're seeing right now, we could see that fire crews are there close to the scene, relatively close to the scene. How do you attack something like this?
The only way you can stop a fire like this is to get the fuel shut off. You've got to get the pipeline closed. And that's their biggest challenge right now is to identify which line is leaking. And they should be able to see that because all these pipelines, and there's thousands of pipelines in this part of the world going to all these chemical plants and refineries and all these different facilities. They'll be able to monitor and see which pipeline is actually leaking. But getting to the shop, it could be a challenge, especially if it's close and they're having a hard time accessing it. But you can't really fight this fire with fire trucks and hoses. Water, because the fire is just too intense, and once the fire gets started, you've really got to shut off the fuel to get it to stop.
And pardon the redundancy, sir, if you already have mentioned this, but do you expect there to be word to residents in the area to evacuate? Would you anticipate that news?
That's what I would anticipate. So something like this, you really want to clear the area, because one of the dangers here is the power line also. Because sometimes if a power line burns and separates, it causes damage up and down that line, the power line itself. So then you have high tension wires with the power plus the product fire. So it does pose a really serious risk to the people around this area. It's clearly one where people need to be getting away from it and not staying around and watching. They need to get back from it and let the fire department and the pipeline company get it under control.
Yeah, and we can see toward the top left of the screen there, firefighters spraying water on some nearby structures there. Once they're able to turn off the fuel source, Bob, kind of walk us through what the next steps would be in terms of an investigation.
Well, the primary thing that needs to be done first is to get everybody safe. And then once the fire is out, to make sure everybody in the area is safe and away from the area. And then they have to determine what the cause of the leak was, plus assess the damage. You know, there could be product on the ground before it caught fire. Typically what will happen if a pipeline like this ruptures, it'll just flow the liquid or flow the gas until something sparks it and causes the fire. And so you'll have chemical damage, damage from the crude or the product or whatever this is flowing. You'll have surface damage, plus you'll have a lot of fire damage. It looks like with the houses so close to this right of way, there's going to be some pretty serious structural damage, it looks like. In terms of investigating, typically what we'll do in the pipeline business is we'll go to root causes. We'll look at the maintenance records, we'll look at the product that was in the line, when the last time this line was inspected. We run, now they have electronic, we call them electronic pigs, that you actually pump through the line that you can evaluate damage on the inside of the pipeline. So they'll probably do that, plus they'll investigate what happened outside the pipeline. A lot of these accidents happen if there's work going on. If somebody's digging, there's a backhoe there, some piece of equipment, sometimes they'll puncture a line. It's pretty rare that a pipeline just ruptures. There's either some serious structural damage there or somebody hit the line and caused a hole.
Bob, of course, we're waiting to hear what exactly.
I can't.
You hear us okay? I apologize.
Sorry, just one. Yeah, just one last thing. I don't see any equipment around the fire. Of course, it's kind of hard to tell with all the smoke. So I don't suspect that it's some kind of a construction accident. It looks like a failure.
What are your thoughts on concerns about air quality right now?
The good thing about the fire is that it's burning most of the contaminants, but you still have a lot of smoke. It does cause a huge air quality problem, and that just takes time to clear out with wind, surface winds, and those kinds of things. So it's important to stay away from this area, especially not knowing what the product is, the carcinogenic product, if there's hazards to individuals with the smoke and the heat. And so it's important for everyone just to stay away from this until they get it under control and figure out what it is. Then I think the authorities can decide if they need to maintain evacuation until the air clears or undertake other remedial action.
Yeah, and we certainly know that the county has those mobile air quality testing units, and as well as the TCEQ will likely get involved as well in terms of monitoring the air quality there. So still a lot of unknowns at this point. Pipelines like this, are they equipped with any sort of alarm or warning system, especially given how close this particular network of pipelines is to the homes there?
In these days, there's what we call remote telemetry. And telemetry monitors all the pressures and flow rates and temperatures of the product in the line and the line themselves. So someone in the control center should have known instantly that there was a problem here. It's very unusual that a pipeline, especially in this highly populated area, would not be monitored on a 24-hour basis. So I'm sure they recognize the rupture immediately. And a lot of times they'll get the pipeline shut off, and it still takes some time for that fuel to burn off that's in that closed off section. So sometimes it'll burn for quite a while after they get the pipeline shut in. I don't see the flames reducing at this point yet, so I'm not sure the pipeline's actually closed in, because this is a pretty serious fire. There's no question about it.
And how difficult would it be for the pipeline company to identify the source of the leak so that they can turn off the fuel source?
They should know it immediately. And these kinds of big product pipelines that are in the LaPorte area and all along the ship channel, they're monitored on a continuous basis, and each line is identified in the control center, so they should know pretty quickly where the leak is. They may be looking for where the shut-off points are, because each pipeline has shut-off points where you can isolate a certain section of the pipeline. And so I'm sure they know where it is. They're just trying to get it shut off. And I would expect that flame to reduce here pretty quickly, unless there's some other problem that obviously we can't tell from watching it on the screen, that there's some other mechanical issue that prevents it from being shut in.
Yeah, it certainly is difficult to tell, because this was reported right around 10 o'clock this morning, and here we are at almost 11:30, so 90 minutes into this. And as you pointed out, Bob, it is still burning strong.
Yeah, it is. I don't see any of the flame reducing yet. Well, once they get the pipeline shut off, it should reduce pretty quickly. Well, that's quite a picture right there by the power lines.
And we've just learned, Bob, that Harris County Pollution Control is on the scene right now. And as I mentioned just a couple of minutes ago, I suspect that the TCEQ will get involved in this as well and bring their own air monitoring equipment to the scene.
Right, and there will be local, state, and federal investigations as to what happened here. And the thing about the oil and gas industry, especially on the pipeline side of populated areas, is that they very thoroughly investigate these kinds of incidents to keep them from happening again, because nobody wants an accident like this for sure, because it endangers property and it endangers people, and it really causes a lot of damage when you have a leak like this.
And again, Bob, you said that they should know immediately what the fuel source is to shut that off. Are you surprised that it's taken 90 minutes and we're still watching this go? And what do you think is the reason for that?
It depends on how far apart the shut-off valves are, where they have different pumping stations and monitoring stations and meter stations all along these pipelines. And so they have a diagram in the control room where all the valves are and where all the intersections. I'm looking at. Sorry, there's production equipment. Cannot be a well. This has got to be a pipeline. This has got to be a monitoring station. That was a good picture right there. The helicopters to put on the site itself. So it looks like it's got to be a meter station or some kind of an intersection of pipelines. And sometimes those lines are above ground and sometimes they're just right below ground. It's hard to tell from the fire if this is coming from a manifold that's above surface or if it's from below. But I didn't see any equipment or like backhoes or anything around the well. So this looks like a mechanical failure, just looking at it on the screen.
And certainly that'll be a key part of the investigation. So the companies that operate these networks of pipelines, certainly they have to anticipate that something like this is going to happen. What do they do on their end to prepare for an event like we're seeing today?
Normally what companies like this do is they'll run emergency exercises on a regular basis. And sometimes they're planned, and sometimes they're not planned. And a lot of times what we would do especially in populated areas like this is we run a no-notice drill, which means the crews will get a call at 4 o'clock in the morning, and they'll simulate an accident like this to where they'll practice the procedures. So which valve do you close? Who do you notify? What people with the state and federal government do you notify? There's a whole set of procedures. And so somebody in a control room is looking at a screen or looking at a procedure book and following the checklist on how to get this pipeline shut in and get it safe. And the companies are pretty good about maintaining these procedures and maintaining these pipelines. But it's mechanical. They're steel. They will fail. They will corrode. And as they get older, these kinds of problems occur. But the companies try to anticipate those and try to have procedures in place to deal with every kind of situation that can arise. And so somebody's in a control room somewhere calling the shots on how to get this pipeline shut in.
And Bob, stand by for a moment as we recap here at the start of the 11:30 half hour what everyone's looking at if they're just now tuning in. This is a pipeline fire. We initially identified the city limits as LaPorte. This is in Deer Park, and details still pretty limited this morning. It's unclear what caused the fire, but we did hear from LaPorte Office of Emergency Management earlier this morning, said this started shortly before 10 a.m. on Spencer Highway. No injuries have been reported as a result, thank goodness. We can tell you that because of the fire, Spencer Highway is closed in both directions. And if you're familiar with this spot, areas surrounding that neighboring Walmart and H-E-B are currently blocked off to traffic, and Andy residents are being asked to avoid that area and to evacuate. That's
right. The fire department is recommending an evacuation for areas between Luella and Canada right now. San Jacinto College, as a precaution, is sheltering in place. So staff, students are told to just stay put right where they are. There is no immediate threat to the campus, we were told. Again, this is out of an abundance of caution as this pipeline fire continues to burn. Still a lot of unknowns at this hour in terms of who's responsible for this particular pipeline, the network of pipelines there. But we just heard, Lisa, from Bob Cavnar, who gave us some really great insight in terms of how these systems work and the types of products that are carried through them.
And he did say it's very likely this is due to some sort of mechanical failure and that they should be able to identify the fuel source and to shut that off quickly. But he said he was surprised that this is still burning 90 minutes after it started. You can see ladder trucks there getting water into the backyards of those homes but right up against where this pipeline fire is taking place. And Andy, if you live in one of those homes, obviously people have gotten out, presumably, but how worrisome you would be right now not knowing the fate of your property or friends and family in the area.
I'm in a terribly frightening situation. Bob, you still on the line with us? Can you hear us, Bob?
I'm still with you.
So you mentioned that this is going to be,
Yes,
the scope of the investigation is going to be large, local, state, and federal. That's going to require, I would imagine, a lot of coordination between the entities.
Yes, each agency and company involved in this will do their own investigation, but there are federal and state regulatory agencies that will monitor this and be in charge of the investigation. There's probably going to be some enforcement actions, I would assume, from different state and federal agencies for these kinds of issues. And so there'll be a number of agencies and constituencies involved in the investigation.
Bob, for folks just tuning in, we want to identify Bob. Bob Cavnar.
I'm just checking my sources here.
Yes, please. He's an oil and gas expert, Andy. He's been hanging with us the past half hour or so, kind of breaking down what we're looking at. Bob, can you explain for folks watching right now what might have initiated this and how long this might be burning?
It's hard to say how long it's going to burn because I don't know what the total fuel source is, but this is clearly a mechanical failure of a pipeline or some kind of production facility. And with the smoke coming from it, it looks like it's product rather than natural gas. And this is in a very dense area, both residentially, but also with a lot of oil and gas facilities. Deer Park has a lot of facilities, and this whole part of the world is just spider webbed with pipelines and different facilities. So it's hard to tell from just looking at the pictures what exactly is going on, but there was clearly some kind of mechanical failure and something sparked this fire when it started leaking. And so I see that there's a truck close to it, so there might have been some kind of maintenance going on when this leak happened. And so they should be able to shut this fire off with the shut-in valves on either side of where this fire has occurred, but it does take some time for that to burn off. So if it's a large section of large pipe, it could take some hours for it to burn all the way down.
And you talked about this area in particular, this part of the country, thousands and thousands of pipelines, networks of pipelines. What types of pipelines in this particular area would we be looking at?
You name it. You've got everything from natural gas to different kinds of fuels, to motor oil, to solvents, different kinds of chemicals going to chemical plants. Typically the safest way to move all these products is with a pipeline rather than trucking them. And some products like NGL and liquefied natural gas, you can't move by truck because it's difficult to do that. Just because of the nature of the product, you have to pipeline it, and it's safer to pipeline. Obviously, leaks are a terrible thing to happen, but it's safer than moving them by something with wheels. And so you've got all dozens of different kinds of products that can be moving to these plants, into refineries, to and from refineries. It's all pipeline that moves these products. So it could be any number of things.
And you talk about the structure and the integrity of these pipelines. If this was indeed a mechanical failure, again, this is a big if, we don't know what caused this, is there any sort of stopgap or backstop that should prevent something like this from happening, especially given the location of this particular pipeline?
These facilities should be inspected pretty regularly. I know the pipelines I operated over the years, we had a regular maintenance schedule, a regular inspection schedule, both for air quality and for mechanical integrity of all these facilities. So these pipelines should be regularly maintained. Every once in a while, you'll get internal wear that doesn't show up until you do an electronic inspection on the inside. And so every once in a while you'll have a mechanical failure like this. They're relatively rare, fortunately, but the strict maintenance regimes of these companies prevents these kinds of accidents generally from happening. But every once in a while they will happen because we're moving millions of barrels of chemicals and petroleum through this part of the world. So it will happen. We just try to keep it as rare as possible.
And you mentioned routine inspections, regular maintenance. Give us an idea how frequently these pipelines are looked at.
It depends on the age of the pipeline. It depends on the size, and also sometimes it depends on the different agencies that are responsible. If it's a federally regulated pipeline, they have a certain procedure for different kinds of pipelines. State is not typically not as strict as federal, but these are typically some are tested monthly, some are tested a couple times a year, sometimes once a year. Typically, some of the non-regulated pipelines they carry smaller volumes aren't as frequent as that, but large pipelines to facilities are pretty regularly inspected and tested for mechanical integrity.
All right, Bob Cavnar, we certainly appreciate your insight and perspective. In terms of, you mentioned several different agencies. What federal agencies would we be looking at here in terms of them being involved in the investigation?
So FERC, the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, is the one who regulates most of the interstate pipelines. And so some of the pipelines are interstate, even though they're within Texas, if they cross state lines, they're considered interstate. And so they're regulated by the feds. Pipelines that are local, that are from well to well or facility to facility, often are just regulated by the state, and sometimes local requirements also. But the FERC, the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, is the primary regulatory agency over interstate pipelines. I don't know what this particular pipeline is, but typically what we'll do is we'll try to regulate to the strongest standard, especially if you're moving a lot of fluid like this, a lot of product. You take the biggest precautions you can take to prevent these kinds of accidents from happening. But mechanical things will fail, and looks like clearly a mechanical failure.
And with respect to regulation and standards, who do these companies report to? Obviously, local, state, and federal officials, they're going to want to know exactly how these pipelines are operated and how routinely they're inspected, what types of maintenance that they undergo. Are there reports that they're required to submit to certain agencies, these companies who manage these pipelines?
Yes, there are regular reports. Some are annual, some are monthly, some are by project. So if you're working on a refinery and you're shutting it down and restarting it, there are reports to the state and the feds that often go for those kind of maintenance events. But all these agencies require fairly regular reporting. The state oftentimes not as often as the federal government, but they are regular air quality, regular environmental quality, and regular safety. DOE, DOT, Department of Transportation, also has safety requirements that you have to meet, as well as the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission that regulates the overall pipeline network.
And you're looking at the same picture that we are right now from our chopper over the scene. It does not look like that flame is getting any smaller at this point.